This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Abam. Welcome everyone. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. So tonight's Shiur the subject is going to be Lag BaOmer, Haba Aleinu L'Toiva. So in a way it's almost like Erev Lag BaOmer because, Friday already, it's mutter to shave, and it's already Thursday, so it's Kamad Erev Lag BaOmer. So L'Kavod Lag BaOmer, I want to speak about this great day, Haba Aleinu L'Toiva. I don't think we ever had a Shiur with more Mar Makayimos than this Shiur. We have 68 Mar Makayimos. The Siyata D'Shmaya, we should have the heavenly assistance to speak everything out clearly and convey everything. Tonight's Shiur comes from a brand new sefer that I got. The name of the sefer is Oitzrois Yosef, from Rabbi Yosef Engel. Rabbi Yosef Engel, one of the all-time great Goinim. He lived from 1859 to 1920. So I had caught a glimpse of something that Rabbi Yosef Engel says, and I saw that it was in the Sefer Oitzrois Yosef, but this is a Sefer I don't think it's really that available. So once again, I want to thank my friend in Norfolk, Virginia, Gedalia Schwartz. He was able to track down and actually print this Sefer just for tonight's Shiur. So we have Oitzrois Yosef over here from Rabbi Yosef Engel. Now, what's even more significant is the fact that Rabbi Yosef Engel was the Rav of Krakow. And whose yahrzeit is on Lag BaOmer? The greatest Rav who ever lived in Krakow, the Ramah. And L'Kavod, the yahrzeit of the Ramah, Rav Yosef Engel was invited to give a shiur in the shul of the Ramah, the night of the Ramah's yahrzeit. So what we're going to learn tonight is the drasha that Rav Yosef Engel gave Lag BaOmer, L'Kavod, the yahrzeit of the Ramah, printed in this beautiful sefer, Oitzrois Yosef. By the way, Rav Yosef Engel, one of the all-time great Goinim, there's a story about Rav Yosef Engel, that there were two women, they were fighting over some laundry. Zeh oimer kula shali, v'zeh oimer kula shali. So they were back and forth. So Rabbi Yosef Engel had an einfal. He told some of his B'nai Bayis, throw some dirty laundry in the pile. So he went back to the first lady. He says, kula shali, kula shali. The other lady's looking through. This is mine, this is not mine. He said, this is the right one. Okay, that's just a little flavor. Rabbi Yosef Engel was a Baki, Shas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, Kabbalah, Sifrei Chasidus. So anytime you quote Rabbi Yosef Engel, you're basically taking a journey through Kol HaTorah Kula. So let us begin. Okay? What year was the drasha? I don't have that info for you. Okay, it was on Lag BaOmer. So the Gemara says in Masechta Yevamos, Daf Samach Beis Amud Beis, the Gemara is darshaning the pasuk that Baboiker Zera Zarechel Erev Al Tanach Yodech. It says in the morning you should plant your seeds, and in the evening, don't stop. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Akiva darshan this pasuk that if a person learned Torah and taught Talmidim in his youth, he should once again and continue to learn Torah and teach Talmidim in his old age, because you never know which Talmidim will flourish, which Talmidim will be the most successful. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva had 12,000 pairs of Talmidim, and they extended from the north to the south. And says the Gemara, they all died between Pesach and Shavuos. Why? Shalei noagu kavod zeh b'zeh. Until Rabbi Akiva came to Rabbi Seinu Shabadarim, until he came to his Talmidim in the south. And the Gemara says, who were they? Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Lazar. And bear in mind, how many Talmidim did he teach? He taught 5 new Talmidim. And from there, Torah continued. Okay, so very interesting. The Gemara says that the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva all passed away between Pesach and Shavuos. What does the Gemara tell us about Lag BaOmer? Absolutely nothing. What does Shas tell us about Lag BaOmer? Absolutely nothing. What does the Torah Sheba'al Peh say about Lag BaOmer? Nothing. It does not appear in the Torah Sheba'al Peh. In fact, the Chassam Sofer even writes in a tshuva, "V'tayma gufa lo yadan." I have no idea what Lag BaOmer is all about. But Rabbi Sai, the Meiri brings down on the Gemara that there's a Kabbalah b'yad HaGoinim, that we have a tradition from the Goinim, that on Lag BaOmer, the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Says the Meiri, this is a tradition that we have from the Goinim. Again, nothing mentioned in Shas, but the Goinim tell us that the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. So Rav Yosef Engel, in his classic drasha that he gave the night of Lag BaOmer on the yahrzeit of the Ramah. By the way, what's this week's Parsha? Emor, Oisios, Ramah. The Ramah's yahrzeit is always the week of Parshas Emor, Oisios Ramah. Anyway, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, why did the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva Dafka stop dying on Lag BaOmer? What is the connection between Lag BaOmer and the cessation of Misa for Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva? Okay. After we count Sfira, so we say Harachaman Uyasalana Avodas Beis Hamikdash Kaima, and then there appears a parak of Tehillim. Which parak of Tehillim? Parak Samach Zayin. Now, what in the world does parak Samach Zayin got to do with Sfiras HaOmer? Now, if you look through parak Samach Zayin, you'll notice something very unusual, and that is there's a pasuk in parak Samach Zayin that appears 2 times inexplicably. There's a pasuk that appears 2 times. Pasuk Dalid, Yoiducha Amim Elokim, Yoiducha Amim Kulam, and then Nachamal, pasuk Vav, again, the exact same words, Yoiducha Amim Elokim, Yoiducha Amim Kulam. Why does that pasuk appear 2 times? If you ever paid attention to that. And if it needs to appear 2 times, why are we mafsik between the first time and the second time instead of appearing doubly back to back? Now, mehechi teisi, this parak has anything at all to do with Sfiras HaOmer. So the Aruch HaShulchan brings down in Siman Taf Peitas that after you count Sfira, you say Harachaman, and that is already legislated by the Rishonim. Tosfos brings it down. In fact, the Poskim even point out that in light of the fact that we say Harachaman, the Hineni Muchan Mazuman is somewhat problematic. Because if you're going to say Hashem should restore the Avodah l'Mekayma, that means Sfira is only D'Rabbanan. How then could you say Hineni Muchan Mazuman l'Kai Mitzvah Saseh? It's not a Mitzvah Saseh, it's a Mitzvah D'Rabbanan. Therefore, the Poskim, for the most part, say maybe not to say that. So I just say Hineni Muchan Mazuman l'Kayim Mitzvahs Sfiras HaOmer. But to say Mitzvah Saseh, it's not a Mitzvah Saseh. Okay. In any event, what does this... Then the Aruch HaShulchan says, some people say, you should say Mizmar Elokim Yechanenu. Why? Because there are 42 words in Parak Samach Zayin, Keneged, the 49 words in Parak Samach Zayin, Keneged, the 49 days of Sfiras HaOmer. Very interesting. Now, by the way, if you count it, there are not 49 words. It means, without the heading of the Parak, without Lam Natzech, Beneginos, Mizmar Shiur, there are 49 words in Parak Samach Zayin. But this idea of the Aruch HaShulchan, that Parak Samach Zayin is connected to Sfiras HaOmer, it already has roots in the Rishonim. The Akedas Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, brings down, by the Sfardim and many shuls, they take this Parak Samach Zayin, and they sort of make a design out of it in the image of what? A menorah. And the 7 psukim comprise the 7 branches of the menorah. And the Akedas Yitzchak writes that the 49 words and the 7 psukim of Lam Natzech Beneginos Mizmar Shiur correspond to the 7 weeks of Sfira and the 49 days of Sfira. Okay, Merv Rabbeisai, what is the connection really? What 49? What is the deeper connection between Lam Natzech, Beneginos Mizmar Shiur, and Sfiras HaOmer? Okay, so fasten your seatbelts. Rabbi Yosef Engel now is going to take us through a ride through Kol HaTorah Kula Mamish, like you never saw before. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, step number 1 is the following. We're going to talk now about the number 5. Okay, if you want to follow along, we're at number 7 on the sheets. We're going to talk about the number 5. Well, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, the number 5 is associated with Haidah, gratitude to Hashem. And Kedarkoi B'Kodesh, Rabbi Yosef Engel brings, whatever he says, he brings dozens of proofs from Kol HaTorah Kula that this is true. So the number 5 is associated with gratitude. Okay, he's about to bring 10 proofs that the number 5 is associated with gratitude. Let's begin. Number 1. Besides the middle brachos of Shemona Esrei, which are 13, you have 3 brachos in the beginning and 3 brachos in the end. These are brachos Hashvach. So what number bracha is Haidah in Shemona Esrei? Avos, Gevurais, Kedusha HaTakadosh, Ritzei is Avodah, Moedim is Haidah. Bracha number 5 is Haidah. It's a raya. The number 5 is associated with Haidah. That's raya number 1. Raya number 2. The Gemara says in Brachos, Daf Vav Amud Beis. Gemara says, Kol hanene misudas chasan. anyone who gets benefit from the suda of a chasan, ve'enoi mesamchoi, and does not gladden a chasan, oiver b'chamisha koilos, violates 5 koilos. By the way, the poskim write, what's the reason the minhag is that the kala pays for the wedding? Where does that come from? It says sudas chasan. It's to avoid the klala of the Gemara, ka'anena misudas chasan, ve'enoi mesamchoi, oiver b'chamisha koilos, so we make it that a wedding is not a sudas chasan, a wedding is a sudas kala. That's what the poskim write on Shulchan Aruch. Anyway, what are the 5 koilos? So the Gemara says, kol sasain, v'kol simcha, kol chasan, v'kol kala, kol oimrim, hoidu es Hashem. The 5th koil is hoidu es Hashem. Is a raya, the number 5 is associated with hoida. And that is why the Gemara continues, that Rabbi Avo says, anyone who's mesameya chasan v'kala, it's as if he was makriv a carbon toida. Because since the final koil is Hoidul Hashem, and the final koil is koilel, all the earlier 4 koilos, Mamela, the main concept of Simchas Chasam V'Kala is allowing them and engendering within them Hoida, which is the 5th koil, and therefore anyone who's Mesameach Chasam V'Kala is Ke'ilu, he was Makriv a carbon Toida. Another raya number 2, that Hoida is associated with the number 5. By the way, we'll have to explain, the Gemara continues, that anyone who's Mesameach Chasam V'Kala is Ke'ilu, they built one of the Churbais Yerushalayim. So where does that come in? Let's continue. The Mishnah says in Avos, Rebbeinu Shalom has 5 kinyanim. What are the 5 kinyanim? Torah, Shamayim v'Aretz, Avraham, Yisrael, Beis HaMikdash. The 5th kinyan of Hashem is the Beis HaMikdash. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, when it says in Shir HaShiurim, Kim Migdal David Tzavarech, like the Tower of David is your neck, what is that referring to? What is Shir HaShiurim referring to when it says, Kim Migdal David Tzavarech? Says the Medrash, it refers to the Beis HaMikdash. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, why is the Beis HaMikdash called Migdal David? Where in the words Migdal David do you see Beis HaMikdash? The word David is a lashon of Haida. The Beis HaMikdash is a language of, is a makam of Haida, and therefore the proper terminology to refer to the Beis HaMikdash is Migdal David, the Tower of Haida. In other words, the 5th kinyan is the Beis HaMikdash, is a raya that Haida is associated with the number 5. That's the 3rd proof. 68 Ma'amakaimais. Why Migdal? Why a neck? Ah. Okay. Weiter. Good point. Weiter. We know there's 7 spheros. There's 7 spheros alluded to in the pasuk we say in Divrei Hayamim. Yeah? In Vayivarech David, we say like this. What are the 7 spheros? By the way, Rabbi say, how many spheros really are there? There are 10. But Chachma, Bina, and Das are the pathways into the 7 spheros. The Chabad, Chachma, Bina, and Das are the pathways into the other 7 spheros. L'cha Hashem Hagedula is Chesed. Hagvura is Gevura. Tiferes, Netzach, Hoid, Yesoid, Malchus. Marva Rabbi say, what's the 5th sphera? Hoid. What does Hoid mean? It's a lashon of Hoida. It's another raya. The number 5 is associated with Haida. In fact, the Gemara in Brachas and Daf Nun Ches Darshins, V'hahoid refers to the Beis HaMikdash. Why? Because again, the Beis HaMikdash is Migdal David, a makom of Haida. Okay, that is proof number 4. Proof number 5. That again, what number is associated with gratitude? The number 5. We'll explain. Let's say somebody has Meiser Sheni, or somebody has Kachim. Hektish, and they want to redeem it. What percent, how much do you need to add to redeem Kachim or Meiser Sheni? A 5th. Why the number 5? The answer is because the Gemara darshins Pidyon Hektish from the pasuk Kodesh Hilulim Lashem, which we darshan Hilulim Chalulim. You could make it Chulin, but the Rashba says by redeeming Kachim and Hektish, it's a way of praising and thanking Hashem. So since you're thanking Hashem, what number is associated with Pidyon Hektish? 1/5, the number 5. Is another raya, Haida is associated with the number 5. By the way, just as an aside, let's just take parenthetically. Rabbi Yosef Engel says, whenever you have an addition of Kedusha, you always need Haidah. So for example, if you want it to be Moisif to Yerushalayim, whenever you have Haisafa, you need Haidah. So for example, when they wanted to be Moisif to Yerushalayim, they needed to bring Lachme Toida. Or Chazal say, which two Shvatim met each other in Mitzrayim? Vayigash Elav Yehuda and Yosef. Because whenever you have Toisefes, Yosef, you need Haidah, you need Yehuda. That's a concept, that whenever there is a Haisafa, you need Haidah. Let's just bring a sixth raya, that the number 5 is associated with gratitude. Listen carefully. Yosef HaTzadik comes out of jail. We're going to say it tomorrow morning. The pasuk says, Edus b'Yosef samai b'tseisai al eretz Mitzrayim. That Yosef HaTzadik comes out of jail. Now, when somebody comes out of jail, that's one of the 5 people who, what? Have to have gratitude. So what letter are we moisef to the name of Yosef? The letter Hey. Why the letter Hey? Because the number 5 is associated with gratitude, okay? 6 proofs. You probably want more. I'm going to give you a couple more. Again, we're trying to prove that gratitude is associated with the number 5. So you want to know what this got to do with Lag BaOmer? Just hold on. Another proof, okay? Number 7. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, we're up to number 17. What did the Rebbeinu Shalom create on the 5th day? What did God create on the 5th day? Says the Gemara, B'chamishi bara oifais v'dagim. On the 5th day, Hashem created birds and fish. Why? L'shabeach l'shmoi. To thank Him. What does it got to do with the 5th day? Haidah is associated with the number 5. Proof 8. I know it's not enough. You're not satisfied. There's a machlokes rishonim. How many kaisos do we need the night of the Seder? Pashtus our Gersa in the Gemara is, there are daled kaisos, and according to our Gersa and Arvei Psachim, the Gemara says, Revi'i, goimer alav es halal, va'oimer alav halal hagadol. Says the Rif, no. The Rif holds there are 5 kaisos. And the Gersa of the Rif is, Revi'i, goimer alav es halal, chamishi, oimer halal hagadol. Rabbi say, what's halal hagadol? Haidul Hashem ki tov, ki li'olam chazdai. Which kais do you say Haidul Hashem? Number 5. Again, is a raya. The number 5 is associated with gratitude. It's nice, right? Thank you. We're not done yet. Well, we know that the 7 weeks of Sfiras HaOmer correspond to the 7 midos of Hashem. First week is Chesed, second week is Gvura, the 3rd week is Tiferes, the 4th week is Netzach, the 5th week is Hoid, the 6th is Yisod, the 7th is Malchus. In Kedusha, every type of Kedusha includes all the others. So each one is a composite of all the others. So for example, that's why in the first week of Chesed, there's Chesed Sheba Chesed, and Chesed Sheba Gevura, and Chesed Sheba Tiferes, and there's Gevura Sheba Chesed. Each Midah includes all 7. Yeah? Which is the 5th Midah? Hoid. Hoid includes all 7. It also includes Hoid Sheba Hoid. Which week does Lag BaOmer come out in? The 5th week. Which day of the 5th week is Lag BaOmer? The 5th day. That means Lag BaOmer is Hoid Sheba Hoid, or gratitude Sheba gratitude. Thanks Sheba thanks. Now, I know what gratitude is. You do me a favor, I acknowledge it, and I say thank you. What's gratitude Sheba gratitude? What's thanks Sheba thanks? Well, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, you need to have the chachma and the common sense and the humility and the knowledge and the understanding to be able to say thank you. Thank you for what? You could be sitting there eating the most delicious meal in the world, breathing in the most delicious air, your heart is pumping blood, and you say, I'm not sure what I should be thanking Hashem for. You need to have the seichel and the humility to realize that there's so much to be grateful to Hashem. That's why we say in Moedim D'Rabbanan, Moedim Anachnu Lach, and we end, Al She'anachnu Moedim Lach. Listen carefully. You say this every day, you should know what this means. Moedim Anachnu Lach, we thank you Hashem. Why? Al She'anachnu Moedim Lach. The greatest thing you need to thank Hashem for is if your skull is not so thick that you realize you need to thank Hashem. The greatest gift in this world, the most important thing you need to thank Hashem for, is if it dawns on you that you need to be thanking Hashem. If you're not walking around on the cloud nine because you could walk and you could talk and you could think and you have people to speak with and you have food to eat and clothing, then you're not doing it right in this world. If you're not constantly, not once a day or twice a day, if not every single block you walk down, every 10 minutes of the day, every minute of the day, if your heart is not overflowing with thanks to Hashem, you're doing this world wrong. That's hoid shebahoid. That's gratitude shebagratitude. You could learn and you could daven and you could do mitzvahs and you could do skulos. If during the course of the day you're not feeling constant gratitude to Hashem, you need Torah therapy. You need to improve the way you're thinking. That's Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is hoid shebahoid. Gratitude shebagratitude. Al she'anachnu moidim lach baruch elados. The greatest thing we thank Hashem for is that we have a little common sense to thank Hashem. By the way, Rabbi say, proof number 9. When did Leah thank Hashem after how many kids? After 4. Oh, after the 4th kid? Okay. That's already in the arm's reach of number 5. Hapam oides Hashem, says Rabbi Yosef Engel. The number 5 is associated with gratitude. So then it comes out that the pinnacle of the Yemei HaSfira is what? Haidah. So if you were writing a chapter in Tehillim that corresponded to Sfira and had 49 words, which theme would you emphasize and double? Yoiducha amim Elokim, Yoiducha amim kulam. Again and again and again. Haidah, 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 Haidah. And now after 4 times, maybe it will dawn on you that you need to thank Hashem. That's why David HaMelech, in the parak that corresponds to Sfira Sa'omer, says, Hagoyin HaGadol of Yosef Engel. That is why in number 4, look back and tell him, Yoiducha amim Elokim, Yoiducha amim kulam. Yoiducha amim Elokim, Yoiducha. 4 times Haidah. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, if you just look for a moment, skip to number 65, Rabbi Yosef Engel says, that's exactly the theme of Sfira. The theme of Sfira is Hoid Sheba Hoid. That is why the pasuk Yoiducha amim Elokim, Yoiducha amim kulam appears twice. So you'll say, so it should appear back to back. Nah, Rabbi Isai, you forgot the Gemara in Brachos. Kol ha'omer, moidim, mishasken Isai. You're now to say thank you back to back, because then it sounds like they're 2 reshuyos. So keeping with the halacha that you don't say moidim, you say yaducha amim yaducha, and then there's a hefsek, and then yaducha amim yaducha. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel. Half love a fella. Okay, Rabbi Isai, that is part 1 of the Shiur. We move on to part 2. What is Haidah? In Kol HaTorah Kula, Haidah is always associated with the following concept: being alive. So you say, no kidding, it's very hard for dead people to have gratitude. Yeah, but obviously, a dead person can't do anything. But for some reason, more than any attribute, more than any midah, more than any mitzvah, whenever you see the word Haidah, it's always associated with Chayim. Let's start with one example, and again, we're going to give many examples. So number 1, in Rav Meir's Sefer Torah, on the pasuk, Vayar Elokim es kol asher asa v'hinei toiv ma'od, very. Rabbi Isai, that's number 24. What is very good? Maves. Instead of toiv ma'od, toiv maves. The meaning is, anything in extreme is death. Meaning like this: I want a nice car. No, I want a very nice car. That's death. I want nice shoes. I want very nice shoes. Very? That's death. Extremes are death. Don't try for very. Very is very bad. Extremes are bad. Ma'od is maves. Ma'od is maves. That's how Rav Meir teaches ma'od. Don't be into ma'od. Listen, you should see what I have. It's very, you're in big trouble. Don't do things very. The only thing you should do very, listen carefully, look at number 25. Davar acher b'chol me'odecha. What does it mean? You should love Hashem with all your ma'od. B'chol mida u'mida shehu moided lecha. Whatever God dishes out to you, moideloi, thank Him. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, that means there are two me'oids in Kol HaTorah Kula. There's death, and there's thanking. Are these really opposites? Yes. That's what we're going to bring out now. The opposite of Misa is Hoida, not Chayim. Because the definition of Hoida is Chayim. So we have two ma'oids in Kol HaTorah Kula. Death and gratitude. Let's progress. Look in number 27. So we're trying to bring out now, and we're going to bring 6 proofs that the definition of life is Hoida. Think about back to Moedim D'Rabbanan. Moedim anachnu lach, we thank you, Hashem. And what are we able to ask for immediately? Al shech yisanu v'kiyamtanu. Meaning, kein t'chayenu skayamenu. That thanking Hashem already is a zechus to continue to live. Meaning, the definition of life is hoida. Moedim kein t'chayenu. Okay, I'm going to offer 3 proofs of my own. Okay, this is, I think it's klar. Rabbi Yosef Engel doesn't mention them. We say every morning in Shachris, we say, Ribbana Shalom, keep us on the planet. Ma betza bedami. What benefit will you have in my blood? Right? So now think about it. Think what we're doing every morning. We're arguing with Hashem. We're saying, Ribbana Shalom, don't take me out of here. Don't take me out of this world. Why? What are we offering Hashem? So we could make the following offering. Ribbana Shalom, don't take me away. Who's going to wear talis? Who's going to wear tefillin? Who's going to daven? Who's going to learn? Who's going to support my family? No! Ma betza bedami beridati hashachas. What are you going to gain? What are you going to gain when I go down into the pit? Hayoidecha afar. Will the dirt thank you? Meaning what? We're saying to Ribbana Shalom, if I die, chas v'shalom, who's going to thank you? Meaning, keep me alive. Life is Haida. Another proof. We say in Hallel, Lo yamesim, Yahalaluka. The dead can't thank you. No kidding. The dead can't play baseball either. You know? They can't play football. They can't make... a lot of things dead people can't do. Why are we saying, Lo yamesim, the dead can't thank you? Because the main definition of life is Haida. We say in Moedim, V'chol hachayim yodu chasela. And the living, thank you. No kidding. The dead aren't thanking. No, the definition of life is gratitude. Another proof. This is Rabbi Yosef Engel. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, the Gemara says in Bava Kama, the Gemara says that if a person doesn't bow down in Moedim, what happens to their shidra? What happens to their spine? It turns into a nachash. Why a nachash? The nachash is the definition of misa. The nachash brought misa olam. If a person doesn't use his spine for haida, the opposite of haida is misa. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, that's the midah k'neged midah. Another interesting raya he brings. Probably you remember from the first Amid in the Yerushalmi and Avodah Zarah, says Rabbi Yosef Engel. The Gemara says, we'll do this very quick, look at number 33. And this is Mamish half of a fella. The Yerushalmi says that when you bring a carbon, you're not allowed to bring a carbon with chametz. Right? By the way, the only carbon that you're allowed to have chametz with is a carbon toida. Yeah? But the Avodah Zarah calls out, V'katar mechametz toida. The burning destroys the carbon taida. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, this pasuk in number 33, V'kater mechametz taida, is Rashi Tevois what? What's the Rashi Tevois of V'kater mechametz taida? Maves. Why? Because the opposite of haida is maves. Meaning, the limud is like this, that a person is alive and his heart is beating and his lungs are working and his heart is pumping, and his digestive system is working, and he's walking around, but his heart is not full of gratitude, he ain't alive. What we're saying is the definition of v'chol hachayim yodu chasela. Definition of life is gratitude. What number is gratitude? 5 Sheba 5. The greatest day of gratitude of the year is Lag BaOmer, 5 Sheba 5. By the way, if chametz destroys taida, then what preserves the taida? Matzah. What's the difference between chametz and matzah? They both have a mem They both have a tzadi. Matzah has what letter? Hey. Why? Because the definition of Haidah is the letter Hey. 5. That's the 10th proof Rabbi Engel brings. That the letter Hey represents gratitude. So Morav Rabbi said we have two ideas over here. That Lag BaOmer is 5 Sheba 5. Lag BaOmer is the day of Haidah. Haidah is the definition of life. Chios. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, why did the students of Rabbi Akiva stop dying on Lag BaOmer? Because since Lag BaOmer is 5 Sheba 5, Hoid Sheba Hoid, gratitude Sheba gratitude, and the definition of Haidah is Chayim, Chol HaChayim Yodu Chasela. So this is the day that is the greatest power of life than any other day of the year. That's why the students of Rabbi Akiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, because of the power of Hoid Sheba Hoid, gratitude, V'chol HaChayim Yodu Chasela. That's what Rabbi Yosef Engel said in Krakow, Lag BaOmer on the yard side of the Ramah. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, he takes it further. Yeah, you're with me? So far, those are the first 2 parts of the shiur. We're 2 for 2. There are going to be 5 parts. What a surprise. By the way, I would like to suggest that one of the significances of Lag BaOmer is that after the 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died on Lag BaOmer, Rabbi Akiva started teaching them on Lag BaOmer. How many Talmidim? 5 Talmidim. Hoid Sheba Hoid, 5 Sheba 5. That's where the Koyach of Torah came to Klal Yisrael. Those 5 Talmidim. But don't stop here. There are 2 things that are ma'oid. Death and Haidah, because they're polar opposites. There's one more thing that's ma'oid in this world. Humility. It says in Pirkei Avos, 4:4, Daled Daled. Look at number 35. Rabbi Levitas Ishyav Noimer. Me'oid ma'oid hava shval ruach. Be very, very humble. What's the chiddush? Chiddush is, you shouldn't be very, very generous. For example, if somebody wants to give $1 million to a new building, you don't have to give $2 million. $1 million is enough, right? No, but generosity is good, but not too much. If you're too generous, you're going to give away all your money. Or let's say kina. Don't be jealous. Of course, you shouldn't be jealous, but a little bit you need, right? Kinas soifrim tar b'chachma. There's only one midah that you need to go to the nth degree. There's no extreme. Humility has to be very, very much. So there are 2 good things in this world that are very. What are they? Gratitude and humility. And now gratitude is the definition of life. And so is humility. How do I know that? Because the Gemara in Saita says on Daf Yud Gimel Beis, who's the most humble man who ever lived? Moshe Loimes. Moshe Loimes, the Gemara in Saita says. Or the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Sadik Beis, number 37. Amar Rabbi Lazar, La'olam hava kabel v'kayam. Be humble and live. Meaning, humility gives life. Or, the Torah says about the king, Levilti rum levavai, so he doesn't become arrogant, so that what? Laman yarech yomim, so he lives long. Or, the Gemara says, somebody who acts birabanos, somebody who carries himself with too much authority, we learn from Yosef HaTzadik, lives short. Meaning humility prolongs one's life. So the definition of humility is life. There are 2 things in this world that are good, very. Gratitude and humility. They both bring life. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. What is Moshe called when Moshe is born? Vayar oisai ki toiv. They saw he was good. Like, what's the big chiddush over there? They saw he was good, as opposed to what? They saw he wasn't good, and if he wasn't good, they were going to write that? Like, what's the big chiddush of the Torah? Vayar oisai ki toiv. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, you know what is good in this world? There's only one thing that's good. Humility. Why? Listen carefully. The definition of good is something that cannot be bad. That's not true of any midah. Because every single midah, once it's taken to the extreme, it becomes bad. The only midah that can never become bad, because it's never too extreme, is humility. So they saw Moshe was good, because since Moshe was the most humble man who ever lived, and humility, there's no extreme, it's never enough, so the Vayar oisai ki toiv. By the way, there's one more thing in this world that's toiv. Toiv. Lahoidois Hashem. So there are two things in this world that are ma'oid. Gratitude, humility. There are two things in this world that are toiv. Gratitude and humility. Well, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, the two go together. Why do the two go together? He says in number 41, the second paragraph. I'll tell you why the two go together. Because why don't we feel gratitude to Hashem? I'm sitting there by davening. I'm saying, 7 o'clock. It's better not be over 1 minute after it's supposed to. What do you mean? You have so much to be grateful to Hashem. So why are we not grateful to Hashem? The main reason is, Kim Tamir. What should I be grateful for? That I can walk? I'm entitled to walk. What should I be grateful for? My heart beats? Kim Tamir. I'm entitled for my heart to beat. What should I be grateful for? That I have a family, or I have food, or I have clothing. All these things I deserve, I earn. The Yibam Hashem has to give it to me. And gratitude is, if Hashem gives me extra, sheva extra. So that's gaiva. If a person thinks that everything that he has, he earns and he's entitled to. And he only has to have gratitude for things beyond other people. But in order for a person to have gratitude to Hashem, if he understands, Ribbono Shel Olam, thank you so much for this water. Who am I? I don't deserve this water. I deserve that you should take 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen. Hydrogen does nothing for me. Oxygen does nothing for me. And you should, the master chemist, should put together these 2 items and make a liquid for me. Who am I to deserve this cup of water? If a person is an anav, he has hoidah. If a person is a bala gaiva, he doesn't have hoidah. So there's only 2 things in this world that are very: humility and gratitude. There are only 2 things in this world that are good: humility and gratitude. Let's go on to the next part. How many gates of wisdom are there in this world? How many Sharei Bina are there in this world? So the Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Chamishim Sharei Bina Nivru Ba'olam. There are 50 gates of wisdom. Very nice. And how many did Moshe have? Moshe had 49. V'kulam nitna leMoshe chasar achash shenemar v'tachasrei ma'am me'elikim. Moshe had 49. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, mamish hafla v'fela. It says, like, come be Yisrael Moshe. So that means if there are 50 gates, and Moshe had 49, then probably the highest we could get is 48. Rabbi Kiva had 50, it's Masha Kol, yeah. Kol Yaka Ra Sa'enai. It's another Lag Ba'omer Shmuz. We can't do everything in 1 year. So, Moshe had 49, and probably the highest we could reach is 48, because, why 48? Moshe was the greatest, plus, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, I'm sure you remember the Mishnah Menachos Kuf Gimel Amud Beis that says like this, that if somebody wants to donate many isaroin of soiles as a carbon mincha, you could bring 60 in one vessel and 1 in another vessel. Why? But don't you dare bring 61 in one vessel, because since a tzibur could bring the most 61 in one vessel, and you're not a tzibur, you're just a yachid, so dayai liyachid shu pachas min atzibur echad. A yachid should always be 1 less than the tzibur. Memela, since Moshe Rabbeinu was the collective entity of Klal Yisrael, he was like a tzibur, and he had 49, probably we could only get 48. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, you ever wonder why the Gemara Megillah says, how many Nevi'im were in Klal Yisrael? The Gemara Megillah says, Daf Yudad, 48 Nevi'im. Wow, what's 48? What's the magic number 48? 48 represents the 48 pathways of wisdom that are accessible to Basar V'Dam, because only Moshe could get 49. Is there any wonder then that if you look in Perkei Avos, how many ways are there to be Koinat Torah? Look in Maramakom number 48. And I didn't do this on purpose. Look at Maramakom number 48. The Mishnah says there are 48 Kinyanei Torah. Why 48? Because since they're 50 Shari Bina, and Moshe had 49, that means a regular Basar Adam can only have 48. The 48 Kinyane Torah correspond to the 48 Shari Bina that are accessible to Basar Adam. If that's the case, listen carefully, after how many days should we get the Torah? L'chara, after 48 days. Because, we can't do anything on the 49th day. Only Moshe has access to number 49. We're regular people. We only have access to 48. So l'chayra, there should be 48 days of Sfira, which correspond to the 48 ways of being koine Torah. And then Hashem should give us the Torah. Get a load of this. The Gemara says in Yevamos, Moshe hoisif yoim echad midaitai. And everyone in the world and their first cousin learns that the Torah was given on the 50th day, and Moshe pushed it off to the 51st day. Says Rabbi Yosef Engel, a different shot. Moshe had 49 levels. We're only able to access 48. Moshe hoisif yoim echad midaitai. Moshe took one level from his da'as, and he gave it to Klal Yisrael that we could also be koine the 49th level. And that's why the Torah was given on the 50th day. Pashup Pshat is, Moshe added and took the Torah from day 50 to day 51. According to Rabbi Yosef Engel, really a regular Basar Adam only has access to 48. Moshe gave us a gift. Really, day 49, we should be sitting around twiddling our thumbs. There are only 48 Kinyane Torah. The 49th is we connect to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hafla v'fela, says Rabbi Yosef Engel. If the 48 Kinyane Chachma correspond to the 48 days of Sfira, what's the 33rd Kinyan of Torah? Oyev es hatoichachais, loving rebuke. The 33rd Kinyan of Torah is Oyev es hatoichachais, based on the Gersa of the Gemara, not the Gersa you have on the sheet. The 33rd Kinyan of Chachma is Oyev es hatoichachais. Okay. Now, Rabbi Say, what else is the 33rd? Haida. So somehow Haida and being Mekabel Teichacha are similar. Because the 33rd day is Hoid Sheba Hoid, 5 Sheba 5, gratitude. It's also corresponding to Oyev es HaTeichachais. Listen carefully. If that's the case, the Gemara says in Shabbos that why was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed? Because they didn't rebuke each other. They didn't rebuke each other. So that's exactly why the Gemara says, if you're Mesameach Chasan Mekala, it's Ki'ilu Hikriv Karbin Taida, or Ki'ilu you built the Beis HaMikdash. Because since Haida, which is number 33, and accepting Teichacha go hand in hand, so it's Elu ve'elu divrei lekim chayim. If you're Mesameach Chasan Mekala, it's like you brought a Karbin Taida. And if you're Mesameach Chasan Mekala, it's like you rebuilt the Beis HaMikdash. Because since the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, because they weren't being Meichiach each other, they weren't Mekabel Teichacha, and Oyev es HaTeichacha is the same as Haida, it's Ki'ilu, you built the Beis HaMikdash. So let's just explain, okay? Everyone with me? We're going to go now, a new point. This is a brand new point. The 33rd Madrega of Kinyan HaTorah. Again, the Mishnah says in Perkei Avos that there are 48 ways of being koine Torah. The 33rd method of being koine Torah is loving rebuke. Let's think about the midah of loving rebuke. It's interconnected with Haida. Why is it interconnected with Haida? Because Haida is not just acknowledging the gifts that the Rebbeinu Shem gave us, but Chazal say that Yehuda, what does the word Yehuda mean? Gratitude. But it also, Yehuda hoide v'loy boish. He admitted and he wasn't embarrassed. Meaning, admitting wrongdoing and gratitude to Hashem both stem from the midah of being moida alo emes, acknowledging what is correct, acknowledging what is true. So the midah of haida, of gratitude, and the midah of loving rebuke are really the same sharish. They're the same midah. Let's talk about the midah of teichacha. Okay? Raise your hand if you like musar. No? Okay. because it's not Lag BaOmer yet. But, you still have a couple days. But Lag BaOmer, the Iker Midah to work on for Lag BaOmer is Oyev es ha-toichacha toichacha. Throughout Tanakh, toichacha is associated with another Midah. Listen carefully. Toichacha is always connected to the Chacham. Where do we find that? Look at number 52. Al toichach leitz, do not rebuke the scoffer. Who could you rebuke? Hoichach lechacham, rebuke a wise man. Or, oizen shoimas toichachas chayim, an ear that hears rebuke, bekerav chachamim tolen. He will be among the chachamim. Meaning, rebuke is only for the wise. The stupid don't like rebuke. So if you see somebody, they get all huffy-puffy when they get musar, one thing you know, they're a shaita. But if you see somebody who has some courage and has some confidence, then when they hear that they're doing something wrong, they say, you know what, I'm doing something wrong. Then you know they're a chacham. V'zeh hapshat, it comes out very nice, that the Gemara in Bava Basra says about Rabbi Akiva, chacham adif minavi. The Gemara calls Rabbi Akiva a chacham in Bava Basra Daf Yud Beis, and in number 55 in Erechin Daf Tezayin, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri gave testimony that I hit Akiva many, many, many times. I hit him. I slugged him. Why? Because he's a chacham, like the pasuk says, Al toichach letz pen yisnaecha. Again, you see, Rabbi Akiva is the quintessential chacham. Nobody got more musar from his rabbeim than Rabbi Akiva. One more idea. So, in order to be makabel toichacha, what midah do you need? Chachma. Chachma. What do we find associated with chachma? Chayim. Only Chayim is associated with Chacham. Where do we see that? Look at number 57. Ki betzel ha-chachma betzel ha-kosef. Ve'yisroin das ha-chachma techaya be'olea. Chachma gives life. The definition of Chachma is life. Or, Avos Rav Nasa, number 60. Chacham nikra Chayim. Or, the Gemara in Soita says on Daf Mem Tesam, we're almost done. Then when Rabbi Kiva died, Nistemu Mayanois HaChachma, the wellsprings of Chachma, were sealed up. Rabbi Akiva is a quintessential Chacham. That's why Rav Tarfon says about Rabbi Akiva, Kol ha-poiresh mimcha ke-poiresh min ha-chayim. Anyone who separates from you is like separating from life. Why? Because Chachma is associated with life. And in order to be makabel toichacha, you need chachma, yeah? Al toichach letz. Rather, hoichach lechacham. So toichacha is only for the chacham. And chachma goes with chayim. Marav Rabbi said on the 33rd day of the Omer, when the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva opened up the Mishnah Avos, and they realized that the midah that they need to work on the 33rd day of the Omer is Oyev es ha-toichacha, loving rebuke, which in order to love rebuke, you need the midah of chachma. Chachma brings chayim, and that's why the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is the midah of Oyev es ha-chachma. Chachma goes with chayim. That's another reason why Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim stopped dying on Lag BaOmer. Mav Rabbi Sai, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, one more nakuda, and we'll wrap it up. Why wouldn't somebody be makabel toichacha? Let's say you hear, singing in the back of the show, and then you hear, if you talk by davening, it's like murder. That's what Shulchan Aruch says. Gadol avonim minaseh. Who's this guy to tell me that I can? What do you mean? It says in Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, but who are you? Meaning, why would a person not be makabel toichacha? Because they say, before you tell me what to do, you're much worse than me. Meaning, you're flawed, so who are you to tell me what to do? The reason why the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, what was their flaw? Shaloi nagu kavod zeh b'zeh. They saw the flaws of each other, and they weren't mechabed each other. But in order to be oyev es hataychach, in order to accept rebuke, you need to be able to overlook the flaws of your friend. So on the 33rd day of the Yomer, when they got to the midah of oyev es hataychach, a loving rebuke, in order to love rebuke, you need to be able to overlook the infractions and the deficiencies of your friend. Then they were able to be noyeg kavod zebazah. Well, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, one more detail, and then we'll give you the executive summary. If you look in the Gemara in Brachos, the Gemara darshans Hoid zu milchemes arnoin shenemar ve'es vahev besufa. That Hoid refers to the war of Arnoin, and the Gemara cites the pasuk vahev besufa, love in the end, which the Gemara in Kedushin darshans that Tamid Chachamim, when they learn at first, they're at each other's throat, but in the end there's love. That means in the Midah of Hoid has the capacity to make it that when you're learning, ultimately you'll befriend your Chavrusa. So on the 33rd day of the Yomer, which is the Midah of Hoid, which has in it the Kayach, as Vahev Besufa, the Tamid Chachamim again, the Tamid Rabbi Akiva were Noye Kavod Zabazeh. They were able to tap into the Kayach of the Esvahev the Sufa. So Marav Rabbi said, just to summarize, why did the students of Rabbi Akiva stop dying? Dafkan Lag V'Omer, says Rabbi Yosef Engel, first of all, the Midah of Haidah is always associated with 5, and he brought many rayas, and therefore, during the 5th week, on the 5th day, which is a Midah of gratitude, gratitude is always associated with life. The students of Rabbi Akiva were able to focus on the great obligation of this world. Rabbeinu Yonah writes, one of the most important reasons we're here down on this earth, even more important than the details of the specific midos and mitzvahs, are v'hisboinenu chasdei Hashem, to show gratitude to Hashem. Gratitude is the zchus of Chaim. The Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Through the midah of anivos, the midah of humility is also the only other midah which is ma'od, which is toiv. The midah of humility allows a person to be grateful and is the zchus for life, have a kabel v'kayam. On the 33rd day of the Yomer is the midah of oyev es hatoichacha, loving rebuke, which also stems from haidah, acknowledging the truth. Toichacha are only for the chachamim, and chachma is chayim. Again, the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva stopped dying. Marav Rabbi said these are some of the great soidos that Rabbi Yosef Engel was megala in the Kayach of Lag BaOmer. Haba Aleinu L'Tova. There's more, so you have to come back by Shalosh Shudas. We'll do some more secrets of Lag BaOmer. But until then, thank you everyone for coming. We should talk be zoicha to grab a hold of the great midah of Haidah and be zoicha to Chayim, Chen v'Chesed ad b'Yaskel Tzedek. Shkoyach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.